A while back I stopped by my local Goodwill with less than hopeful expectations of finding anything worth my time. However, when I made my way back to the electronics section, I happened to find a JVC VCR and this Magnavox DVD and HDD recorder, both with remotes. While I didn't need another VCR and DVD recorder for around $22 including tax, that kind of a deal was just too good to pass up. Despite having these units for a while now, I haven't done any on-camera testing because I was waiting for a power adapter for the camera I'm using to film this episode to come in. Well, it's finally here and I'm in the mood to test some gear, so let's get to it. The MDR533H was the baby of the Magnavox MDR530 line of DVD and HDD recorders that succeeded the MDR510 line. These units were Magnavox in name only. It was Funai who turned out the units. Featuring a 320GB hard drive which gave users around 61 to 371 hours of recording time depending on the recording mode used. Feature-wise, the MDR533H would work off the specs of the MDR513H, with inputs consisting of 2 composite and audio RCA jacks, both front and back, 2 S-video jacks, again both front and back, cable satellite input, and DV input for cameras and video decks. Output-wise, you get composite and RCA audio with S-video, component, and last but definitely not least, HDMI. But don't get too excited about the HDMI. You see, this unit downscales all the HD signals to SD, so don't think you're getting a unit designed to handle HD resolutions. The HDMI appears to just be there for convenience with modern displays. However, unlike the 513 model, this 533 unit lacks MP3 playback. Guess that licensing fee just wasn't worth it the second time around. And when it comes to recording, your best bet is to use DVD plus Rs. The minus versions can only be played after they've been finalized on other players. Page 67 of the downloadable manual pretty much sums up its compatibilities. Its older brothers, the 535 and 537, pack a 500GB and 1TB hard drive respectively. We'll test later to see if we can take this baseline MDR533H and make it in terms of storage capacity equal to that of its older brothers. Before we go opening the unit to see all the goodies inside, let's make sure the unit actually powers on and works. Plus, I'm curious if the previous owner thought to delete their recordings before turning in the unit to Goodwill. And they didn't! Turns out the hard drive was full of daytime television programming. Almost certain this was owned by a middle-aged elderly woman based off the content that was on it. In fact, the footage goes so far back, Taylor Swift was still considered country according to Great American Country. With the only footage on the hard drive being TV programming, this puts a dent in my theory that the DVD recorder was used to capture old home movie tapes. But who knows, maybe the previous owner just dubbed their tapes straight to DVD and bypassed the hard drive altogether. Now that we know the unit works, let's give it a clean down. With a microfiber cloth and some pledge spray, I went to work cleaning up the exterior case. Flipping the unit upside down, we have what appears to be rust forming on certain areas of the bottom. Maybe this thing survived a flood or a spilled drink. Either way, I took some sandpaper to the rust and removed what I could of it. When I felt satisfied the case was clean on the outside, I went to work voiding any chance of warranty this thing had left and unscrewed the case using a small Phillips head screwdriver. Inside, we find everything you would expect to find in such a unit, with my biggest interest being the hard drive used and this daughter board used for HDMI output. The hard drive was an Hitachi Z5K320 laptop drive with a storage capacity of 320GB, running at 5400 RPM under the SATA 2 protocol. Research has led me to believe this drive was chosen due to it being quiet and slim with low power demands. While considered last generation tech at this point, since the drive was only going to be dealing with DVD quality video, the drive speed didn't really need to be anything next gen. The HDMI daughter board is mostly powered through Panasonic ICs, and from the pictures I found online, these boards are possibly used in some Toshiba units as well. As for the disk drive, it didn't appear to be anything to write home about in my opinion. After a slight wipe down inside and the removal of dust from the fan, I was dying to find out if I could A. read the content of the drive via computer, and B. upgrade the hard drive to one with a larger capacity, or if there was some kind of proprietary restriction attached to the default drive. With a few screws removed holding the drive to the unit, I plugged it into my hard drive docking station and discovered that Windows does acknowledge a drive has been plugged in, but that's about it. I did a little reading online and found a program called ISObuster that may help me out. In the free trial demo, I could tell it was seeing the footage from the drive, but it wouldn't let me do much else, and since I couldn't justify the purchase just for this video, I left it at that. However, according to their website, IsoBuster does officially support extracting footage from these kinds of machines, so it may be something to look into if you want digital copies without having to burn multiple DVDs and rip the footage with a DVD drive on your computer. My next test was to see if I could swap the drive out with something more modern and fast. After a trip to Walmart, I returned with an SSD and went to work swapping out the original 320GB spinning laptop drive with an overkill 500GB PNY SSD. The unit still booted and allowed me to feed a video signal through the machine. I tried looking for some kind of format drive option, but never found any. I read in the manual that if power was removed from a recording unit, that once power was restored, the unit would go into some kind of repair mode. I thought this might be the ticket to trick the unit into configuring the new drive. So I started recording some footage to DVD, and soon after yanked the power cable. When power was restored to the machine, I expected to see the word repairing on the LED display or some kind of indication it was trying to format or reconfigure the new drive. But after it booted back up to normal, I tried recording straight to the drive only to see this E48 error, which basically translates to a hard drive related error. I honestly thought there wasn't anything else I could do, and put the old hard drive back in the unit. But I did my due diligence and sought advice from the elders of the internet. My metaphorical plea for help did not go unheeded, for I soon discovered ancient scrolls that showed me the ways of our nerdy ancestors. There was indeed a way to format the drive. It was through the skip code ritual. I was able to access a forbidden menu which held the secret to formatting the drive. With the press of a few buttons, skip 079 to be exact, I had gained entrance to this secret menu, and with the press of the enter key, I had wiped the original 320GB drive clean of all of its records. It was then I realized if I could wipe the original drive, then maybe it would work for the SSD after all. I quickly plugged the new drive back into the machine, and after following the steps once more, I had formatted the SSD to be compatible with the recorder. I also noticed that I had gained another 40 hours worth of high quality recording time. I was excited to learn that the Magnavox and Funai's lock on the hard drive's capacity was locked no more, at least with a 500GB hard drive. I'm assuming the unit would accept a 1TB drive as well since they made a model with that capacity, but I didn't have a spare one around to test. I'd really like to see if it could be pushed beyond the 1TB capacity, but maybe I'll leave that for someone else to test. Well, that's pretty much it. My only concern now is what should I do with it? You see, while most people would use it for recording TV shows or converting VHS footage to DVD, I wouldn't use this machine for either of those needs. I have streaming options for content viewing, but with a lack of HD recording options in the unit, I wouldn't use this even if I had something on TV to record. As for tape dubbing, I already have equipment that gives me better quality, better editing, and more conversion methods than this machine that's limited to its default DVD background and my footage being stuck on an aging hard drive. I mean, it would have been nice to have a USB port for connecting to the drive so that way you could properly back up your footage. While I don't plan to implement this machine into my media workflow anytime soon, I can still appreciate this machine and how it was a kind of hybrid for the DVR user who still wanted to have a physical copy to keep long after the drive's life had ended. I hope you got some enjoyment or nostalgia watching me take this unit apart and testing it out. My channel is video and media focused, so if that's your thing, I think you might enjoy some of my other videos. Maybe let me know if you have any memories for these types of units in the comments section below. Thank you for watching.